Thank you for joining us. This is the Youth Apprenticeship Career Pathway Technical Assistance webinar. And this is Natasha Telger with Online WorkNet. We also have Jim and Tammy with Commerce that's joining us today. So we can go over the information and also hopefully answer all of your questions. So if you have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and enter them into the chat pod. We also have some files in the lower left-hand corner that we'll be using today, some troubleshooting handouts, and also a newer handout on the types of services that are available to be used for this program. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and I will open up these polling questions again, and but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just to kind of get us going. But know that I will make sure that these are made available to you in just a few moments. Okay. And Jim and Tammy, feel free to jump in at any time. I was going to start out with going over just kind of the application and why it's important and related dashboard information and some troubleshooting related with that area. We'll take a look at the suitability page and, again, the related dashboard section. Take a look at the progress page, related dashboard section, and then a new provider information area that will be pushed out to production later on today. So to get started, we do have some folks that have started having their customers, complete the LMI WorkNet application, or the application in LMI WorkNet. And that's great because we need to have the information with the correct Social Security number of the person that is for your use. In order to sync to customers that are already in IWDS, but also, even if they are not in IWDS already, we just need the correct Social Security number so that we can pass that information to IWDS. So we have the instructions for your customers on how to access the application. Those are on your partner page, which hopefully everyone's very familiar with. It's the Suitability Application Instructions for Customers, so that has the directions on how to get to the application. But one of the things I just want to point out is, again, I want to stress that the Social Security number is required, and I had kind of forgotten that many of our youth don't know their Social Security numbers anymore. So you might want to, we'll definitely want to make sure that they have that information so when they complete the application, they can enter that into the application correctly. So whenever they start in the application, part of the process is to complete the interest survey, and then once they do that, actually let me go ahead and just bring up these instructions real quick. So we have agree, and then I'll complete we have a pre-screening piece, which will populate your suitability page whenever you need to review to make sure they're eligible. And they'll complete a skills and interest section, which takes them to the career cluster inventory. When they come back, they select their first, second, and third choice. That was part of the results from this career cluster inventory. Then they're going to select you, the provider. Once they select you, the provider, then they will show up on your dashboard. So you can see once they submit that pre-screening section, they'll be associated with your area on the dashboard. If you have a person that you're like, well, I'm sure that Natasha completed started the application. Why can't I see her in my dashboard? Well, It's probably because they never made it to this point and saved the information to identify you as a provider. Then they'll complete their baseline questions, and they'll see any recommendations. So then once they do that, then they'll go ahead and complete the rest of the application information. So you can see when they had started their pre-screening and they completed it, they completed the pre-screening, started the application, and whenever they completed the application. Now once they do this, it will send the information to IWDS, and it will create them as an inquirant. Now, one of the things to know is that whenever this is submitted, it happens like immediately. There's no stopping in between it. It will go ahead and populate IWDS. It's sent directly there, and it creates it uses the date that it's submitted as the contact date. So we've run into some situations where people they have services, and so there's a data lag, and now this contact date might be causing some people some issues. So what we have put together, and this is down in the lower left-hand corner, and we will go ahead and put it available, make it available on the website as well. But we put together some of this troubleshooting questions to ask yourself. So the first one is, do you have customers who have received services, but they have not been documented in LMyWorkNet or in IWDS due to data lag? So we just want to make sure, first of all, that they complete the information, the online application, because we have to have that in order to get them into the system and to be able to document those services. And if they did they put in the correct Social Security number so it can be synced to IWDS? And then we want to make sure that you have the appropriate WIOA youth eligibility documentation, and that you have staff that's identified, that if you can't put the information into IWDS, you have the LWIA staff that's identified, so that they can certify the application and update those services as they move forward. We want to make sure, and we'll show you this in just a minute, but we have the suitability page. They've gone through the suitability page and reviewed all that information and selected a program. And then we want to make sure that they've met with the LWIA staff, if you're not that person, and had all the appropriate documentation so that LWIA staff can certify the application. Okay. Anybody have any questions with that so far? I'm going to go on to this next section. Again, I'm going to show you the suitability page in just a moment. The other scenarios, do you have customers who have received services and the application is completed in LMyWorkNet with the correct SSN, but it hasn't been synced to IWDS, and the WIOA application has not been completed or certified into IWDS? So if that's the case, that brings in that whole issue kind of with your contact date, because you did the right thing. You had them go through LMyWorkNet and create the information, create the online, use the online application. But since those services had been started prior to us having the application ready and available for you, then what they needed to have done was the information entered into IWDS.
Hey, Natasha, you're just a little bit ahead. That one,
okay.
The one with the contact date's next. This is talking about if nobody has selected their client in IWDS, so nobody's working with them. The next section, we talk about the contact date.
Okay. Do you want to just kind of talk about this a little bit?
This is Jim Potts. What we have right now in IWDS, there are 127 different clients that have their WorkNet application completed that's been synced into IWDS, but about 100 of those have no career planner assigned to the electronic record in IWDS. So we need to make sure whomever is going to do the IWDS is getting in there and working with those clients, is assigning themselves as a case manager or a career planner and complete the application and get it certified, because they're just sitting out there as inquirent records with no action being taken on them. So if you're a grantee and you have a relationship with somebody who's doing the Illinois WorkNet development system for your clients, and you see that nothing's going on with them with IWDS, it's important to make contact with your partner and find out where everybody's at in the process so we can get your people moved along.
And some of the ways you'll be able to see this is, one of those very first few steps I talked about is, reviewing the suitability page. So you're going to go ahead and make sure they're eligible, identify the program that they're going to be enrolled in. Are you recommending them for enrollment? So once they do that, once they are ready for enrollment or recommended to be enrolled, then you'll see that we have this next area, which is their enrollment status. So we can see if they're an inquirant, applicant, registrant, exited. So if they don't have an IWDS application status, that means they're not synced at all. If they have an inquirant status, it means that that application that Jim was talking about hasn't been certified. And one of the reasons why they may not have been certified is because, the AWEA person doesn't know that they need to be, that they need to go in and do that. Is that a correct statement, Jim?
Yeah, that's one of the things they should be looking at, because if the person's not moving along through the system, that's a bog. It's bogged down, because it's really important to understand the client needs to be up to date both in WorkNet and in IWDS, because IWDS is the system that's going to be reported on through federal guidance. WorkNet's a system we're using to track dashboards, so it has to be updated both ways. We can't just stop once we get them in WorkNet, and they have to be completed in IWDS, certified, and enrolled in services through there. So it's really important that we make sure everybody, if you're partnering with somebody, that you got a good communication with them, and if you're doing your own IWDS, that you're taking the actions to move your applications forward.
Right. Okay. Oops. Get that out of the way here. Get my page back up here. Okay. And so the other area that Jim was talking about, if you have a person that that because of a data lag that you couldn't, you have services that you need to have included into IWS, and it's due to the contact date being automatically generated by Illinois WorkNet, when they had completed that online application, then please identify those customers and send them to Jim and have Jim's information.
Well, go ahead and scroll down. You're talking about the next one. So if you move down to the next one, that's one we're talking about there.
Okay.
The one above that we just finished, that's where it's the dates are fine in IWDS, just nobody's taken action on the record yet. So that's when we need to make sure our partners who's doing the IWDS is getting in there. The next one, what Natasha's speaking about, sometimes there's going to be issues with a contact date. Whatever date that person, your individual, is created in WorkNet, that's the date that they get brought over into IWDS, and that's established as a contact date. And IWDS logic will not allow anything to go on with that record on any date prior to that contact date. So if there's data lag, for instance, and I have a customer that has put in his or her application in WorkNet on the 1st of November, and it came to IWDS, it's dated the 1st of November. But if this person had received services back in October or September, we need to take action. I need to go in, I need to find that or be told about that person, and I can go in and change the contact date in IWDS. But I can only do that if you let me know that that's the issue. And again, there's over 100 clients that are sitting out there in IWDS's inquirement status. So I have a concern that maybe some of those are due to some date issues. So that's the reason why it's really important that we get a grasp to find out what's going on with the IWDS records that aren't being worked on. Is it due to dates? Is it due to our partners who's supposed to do the IWDS doesn't know they're supposed to, or whatever the circumstances? We just need to be moving people along.
Good deal. Okay, so again, let's go back to how this relates to where I can find some of the information in Illinois WorkNet. Get to the right screen here. So they've completed the application. We're going to look at some customers that are ready for review. And this is all test people. And then let's go ahead and pick somebody here. I can review their application. I can review their application. When I go to the suitability page, the very first thing on the page is their WIOA eligibility requirements. And so whatever they had selected in their application would populate in this area, so you can see, what they said that they had. We also have kind of a document quick reference. So you just select this show button to show you whatever's needed as a quick reference. You can see the barrier, who this applies to. With this particular one, they're automatically eligible. And it shows you the required documentation, or you can see the full list of this, like the short version. You can see the full list, and you can see any of the related policy and other documents like the glossary that might be helpful to you. So that's available under the WIOA eligibility requirements. You can review their goal information that comes across. You can see the recommended training program. Some of you may only have one training program. Others have multiples. So regardless if you have one or multiples, what you need to do is select one. It's going to document who made the recommendation, and you can see it automatically selects them as ready for enrollment. And then you can save that information. If you have a person that you need to, that you're not the person that enters the information into IWDS, then you can click Schedule an Appointment with the LWIA, and it'll provide you with the link to schedule an appointment for that person. If they don't have any recommended training programs, then you can see the listing of programs that are available and the reasons why they weren't recommended for that particular training program. On each of these pages, again, we have the instructions at the top. Then you go to the progress page, and you can identify the different contacts for this particular person. So if it has the person and it has LWIA behind it, that would be your LWIA contact of, if you're not the person that can enter the information into IWDS, that would be your one of your contacts for sending notices to request information be updated in IWDS. You can select yourself or others. You can see how many people are identified as the contacts for these customers. If you need to schedule appointments, you can do so. You can see the enrollment information that's coming from IWDS. It's been information that's been synced. You can see which programs that they've been associated with. And whenever, if you have a person, maybe they're doing construction tier 1 and then they're going to go to construction tier 2, you can set the start and end dates for each of these. You can see, their overview for the information that they've entered in, for their credentials they've earned and their education, and then their employment history. Again, this is kind of all test data. And then you can see what they have entered in here for their employment goals that was submitted using their application, and then you can edit that information. You can see their list of barriers and use that as a discussion to identify the services. And this is one of the areas that we want to point out, that even if you have access to IWDS, what we want to point out is that you can go ahead and select the different types of services that are going to be provided to this individual, and you can go ahead and I know this isn't accurate exactly, but I'm just selecting items. You can enter in your list of services, and you can put, start and due date, and you can create your listing of services and the whole plan. So a lot of times we refer to this as the Individualized Services Training and Employment Plan. Otherwise, it's the a lot of the IWDS people will call it the ISS, Individualized Service Strategy. And so you can create that in LMI WorkNet with those listing of services, and then your customer will have access to a read-only view of their progress page, minus the uploaded documents and minus the case note section. They'll be able to see all this other information, and then they can like visually see what the plan is for services that they're scheduled to receive. You can, if you are in IWDS, and let's say maybe this is case management or apprenticeship, whatever the case may be for your service. Once you have, we have Natasha, we have case management, and we have the start date as November 1st. Whenever that is entered into IWDS, as long as those three pieces of information, me, my service, and my start date are all the same, it's going to automatically sync. And so anytime you make an update in IWDS, it's going to automatically sync up this line item. So you don't really have to do anything in WorkNet with this if you already have access to IWDS. And once it's synced, then it's synced. It'll keep updating this information, and the source will say IWDS. If I don't have access to IWDS, then I want to say, I need to go in here and say this is started. It's going to say this must be entered into IWDS. And then you can put notes in there. You can submit a request, and then it'll change this to request sent, and it will send a notice to the person who is the LWS staff that was identified up here in the contact. So in this case, it would have sent it to the WPP Train 16, and they would get a notice that you said that this particular service started on a particular date, and they can enter that information into IWDS, and it would update this line item as long as with the person, the program, or the service name, and the start date. Once those are all the same, again, it will update this. The update happens at once in the late night hours, but if it does the entire batch of youth apprenticeship and career pathway customers. But if you wanted to do an individual sync, you can click the sync with IWDS, and it would update this person's information. If you had a credential that was associated, let's just pretend that it's associated with this service, you can submit your credential information and submit a request to have that entered into IWDS, and then it would update and it'd populate your credential section. You can also upload documents. We just ask that, make sure that those documents don't include anything that is, personal identifiable information like, a social security number or something like that. We wouldn't want something like that uploaded. And if you're going to upload a document for our customer at the customer level, we would recommend that, it only includes information related to that customer and not a group of customers. Okay, and then let's see here. I know Tammy had some information about different services. Let me bring that handout up.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Tammy Stone, and I'm just a new member to this state team to help with this youth apprenticeship program. My background, I've done some work with a different program called EPIC, which has utilized a lot of these tools very successfully, and it's been kind of a backbone of our program. So it's really important to utilize the tools that are available for you guys through the WorkNet system. But the main thing I'm going to talk about today is one of the documents that is in the download is the service document. And basically what we did with this particular document is we streamlined only the services that are available in the system for this particular program. So we've had some questions from providers as far as, we're doing this service, where does it fit? Utilize this document and try and see, what the best fit is for this if you're doing like a job club or mentoring or academic services or whatever they may be. Utilize this document to identify how they should be coded in the system, because these codes are also in the WorkNet system when you're adding services. So you need to utilize these. If there's something that you're doing that's not represented in this, let us know. There are other service codes that we could potentially talk about adding. So if there's something that you're doing that just is not represented well at all in this, just get a hold of us and let us know, and we can take a look and see if there's another service code that needs to be added. But the main thing is, we just wanted you to have this document. It's just the services right now are available for the youth program. And if you have any questions, you can definitely let me know. I am going to put my email address in the pod. And then Tara, of course, has been great. You can reach out to her also. Her and I are kind of tag teaming some of this together. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. And then one of our, I see that Jim's answering some questions over there in the chat, so please let me know if there's something that I missed so far. One of the other updates that's going to be pushed out today or tonight would be the provider information. And so we used to call this, I think, resources, but, basically all of it's resources. So we wanted to be more specific to let you know that this one is specifically related to, like, at your provider level. What we're looking at in this lower part is the customer level. So when we go to the provider information, if you have, and again, this is on test, so if you have access to multiple locations, then you'll see multiple locations. But if not, let's say you're just with Youth Build McLean County, you'll see Youth Build McLean County, and you select it. And so we have like a placeholder for provider details. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to put here yet. If you have anything that you think would be of value add that you would like to see in this provider details section, then please let us know. We're definitely open to suggestions. Right now it's kind of a placeholder. We have your scheduling tool, so if you needed to put your schedule out there, then you can do that if you're the LWIA. And then we have the upload section. Now the upload section is for anyone, this is at your provider level. So if you have some kind of document that has, multiple customers on it that you needed to share that information with the statewide team, then you could upload that information. If you had like worksite agreements, you can upload those to this tab as well. If you wanted to upload, your grant information, you can upload that to this Uploads tab as well. Was the other one business engagement information, Tammy? Is that one that you had wanted them to upload to this tab as well?
Yes, business engagement, and we'll go over that next week. I know that there's been several people requesting a template for that, so we appreciate the ones that we received, and then we will discuss the business engagement document next week on the webinar.
Okay. So this is the area that you would add any of those kind of provider level resources that you need to share with the statewide team. Another area that could be used, we could use this for is for any technical assistance. We could put, that's something that you can think about or talk about, is being able to upload any technical assistance visit information. Could be uploaded there if you wanted to. Okay. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Okay. I saw Debbie on the list, the IWDS services, there's not a selection for equivalency, GED.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at that, and we can add that to our services.
Okay. Are there any other questions or items that we need to go over? Let me double check this page. Okay. Oh. We've already covered this information. Okay. What I'm going to do is, for anyone who didn't have a chance to answer the polling questions, please go ahead and do so. Or if you haven't had a chance to check in, please go ahead and check in. And we'll just wait here and give you a little bit of time. If any questions come up, you can go ahead and enter them into the chat. And I don't know, was there Jim or Tammy, if there's anything else that you wanted to cover or talk about, anything that's related to these polling questions? Or
my biggest thing is to make sure we're moving people along on IWDS. As I'd mentioned, there's 127 clients sitting out there that haven't been enrolled in services, and the majority of them don't even have a career planner assigned to it in IWDS. So if you're working with somebody, you want to make sure to touch base to find out the process, if they're moving along, if they need something from you, or if there's any technical issues that you need help from me, feel free to reach out to me at any time, because we need to get the backlog fixed, because once we get the backlog fixed, then we're set and good. But until we get that done, we're kind of chasing our tails. So to me, that's a big priority, is finding those records that haven't been completed and certified and getting that done.
Yeah, and I agree with Jim. I think the main priority is making sure that all the eligibility has been done, correctly, and that we are catching up with that. And then we're going to do some data pulls here too, to look at customers and where that lag is at also, so we can be working with you guys directly to try and move this along.
Did you see the question, Natasha, from Sabrina and Val?
yes, I'm sorry, I was talking, I was muted. Yes, so yes, we see that you have the dashboard and looking, looking at enrollment. So what you want to do is to, first of all, just make sure everybody knows how to get to the tools. I don't want to make any assumptions. is that you can go to the partner guide, click on the partner dashboard tools, and log in with your Illinois WorkNet account. And then you're going to go to a listing of your groups, and then so you'll be able to easily access your list of customers. And then you can go to your dashboard, and I'm going to go ahead. Oops, darn it. I hit it. Hold on. Hopefully you can see this. If you need to make this larger, then use the little icon up in the upper right-hand corner of the pod where I'm sharing my screen, and that has 4 arrows that point out, so you can make that larger to see my screen. You're going to go to Dashboards. You're going to go to Youth Apprenticeship, and it will default to show your agency and your agency's information. This is all test data, so it's kind of looks a little weird, but you're going to, once a person has selected you as a provider in their application, then you can start to see them in your dashboard. And that's how we associate that customer with you, is by them selecting you and saving that information in their application. So once they do that, then you'll be able to see them. You can see that these are applications in progress. These are applications that have been submitted, and these are applications where they said, yeah, I decided I don't want to do this. So based on that, they're going to come down to this next area, and you'll see that we have 25 people that are ready for review and 19 people that have been recommended for enrollment. So because we want to make sure that the eligibility information has all been reviewed, as well as the suitability information has been reviewed and talked about, and they want to participate into the program, this has to be done first. Whenever they complete the application, it's going to automatically send it to IWDS as an inquirant. But we really want you to focus on, making sure we have all the eligibility and suitability information completed up front, because once they are in this green area, because that means they're recommended for enrollment, then they're going to populate down here into the next section. Then you'll be able to see that I recommended 19 people. 1 of those didn't sync. 8 of them are still as an inquirant. 4 of them are an applicant. That means their application has been certified. They just don't have any services yet. And then 6 of them their applications have been certified, and they do have services. So that's how that part of the dashboard works. We'll be adding some enhancements to the progress page to make sure that the information is being reviewed and updated. And then you can see that the dashboard, this will be pushed out again today. It has been modified a little bit so it matches up with those youth services. So we have case management, academic, work-based learning, and you'll be able to see those who have services and where they are in that process. We will be making some updates to the dashboard as well to add more areas that are more like time sensitive. So you'll be able to see, if a person's been sitting in a certain area for too long, then you'll be able to, you'll get a notification. You'll see that, hey, this is kind of an alert section, red alert. You need to do something to move this person along. So we will be making some more updates to the dashboard. Okay.
This is Jim. I just put a note up that if anybody has their LWIA 90 IWDS account, if you haven't logged on within the last month, you're going to be auto-deactivated. So just send me an email, and I can update it and get you your new password. So if you have IWDS responsibilities, you can get in there and start working with it.
All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have any more questions, we'll go ahead and let you go. We appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar and ask questions. So again, we'll wait here for a few moments. If you have any questions, go ahead and enter them. Otherwise, everyone have a great